The layers of duplicity and shallowness. This is a new low.
Pressure really mounting up on Prince Andrew, having already given up the use of his royal titles.
King Charles is very keen to move Andrew and his ex-wife Fergie on. He doesn't want them to live there anymore.
To be simply Andrew Mountbatten Windsor with no letters after his name, no styles before his name, and to lose those military connections as well will really sting.
Ever-evolving soap opera, that is, of course, what's happening over at Royal Lodge.
Prince Andrew never really leaves the news, but there's been a sort of tsunami of coverage over the last couple of weeks.
Andrew Lownie, the unofficial biographer who spent 4 years investigating Prince Andrew and interviewed over 300 sources, just revealed that Queen Elizabeth II personally sent away every single person who brought complaints about her son, including senior diplomats and intelligence service officials, creating what he describes as a massive institutional blind spot that protected Andrew for decades, despite overwhelming evidence of misconduct. But here's what makes these revelations genuinely explosive and far worse than the public ever realized. Andrew went through 40 women during a 4-day taxpayer-funded trip to Thailand, and then allegedly exchanged them with an Arab prince. He had so many women coming to Buckingham Palace that sometimes 2 arrived in a single night, and he refused to let security personnel even know their names. And intelligence services in multiple countries, including Russia, now possess compromising material on him because he walked straight into classic honey trap operations everywhere he traveled. Once you understand why Lownie says Andrew essentially ordered Virginia Giuffre from what functioned like a catalogue book circulating among wealthy men, why foreign diplomats told him they were asked to act as procurers and responded by saying they were diplomats, not something far more inappropriate, and what it means that Sarah Ferguson was still staying at Jeffrey Epstein's properties in 2013 and 2014, long after she publicly claimed to have cut all contact, you'll realize this isn't just another royal scandal about poor judgment. It's a systematic pattern of abuse enabled and protected by the most powerful institution in Britain. And the evidence Lownie uncovered during his research suggests the full truth about what happened and who knew about it may be even darker than what's already been revealed. Andrew Lownie has written what many consider the definitive unauthorized biography of Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, and the book entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York contains bombshells that fundamentally challenge everything the palace has said publicly about the disgraced prince. Lownie spent 4 years conducting research for this project. He approached approximately 3,000 people requesting interviews. He successfully convinced 300 individuals to speak with him about their direct experiences. Many agreed to go on the record, which represents something extraordinarily unusual for royal biographical research. He submitted freedom of information requests to government agencies. He ensured everything was properly sourced, often requiring double verification from independent sources. This wasn't a tabloid rush job. This was serious historical research conducted by a trained historian who describes himself as a monarchist without any anti-royal agenda. One of the most shocking revelations Lownie uncovered during his research was the extent to which Queen Elizabeth II actively protected Andrew from consequences. Every single time people brought serious complaints to her attention, she systematically sent them away without taking action. These weren't just complaints from minor officials. They came from senior British diplomats who witnessed his behavior during official trade missions. They came from intelligence service personnel who understood the security implications of his activities. This created what Lownie characterizes as an institutional blind spot that allowed Andrew's behavior to continue unchecked for decades. Lownie wouldn't characterize it as a giant conspiracy exactly, but it represented a fundamental failure of accountability at the highest levels. The Queen had this enormous blind spot specifically regarding Andrew. Lownie discovered clear evidence of Andrew's financial corruption during his time as trade envoy. His activities in Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan raised serious red flags. He was allegedly taking bribes and earning substantial commissions for facilitating business deals. One example Lownie uncovered involved Andrew earning £3.85 million for introducing a Greek water firm to Kazakhstan. People were regularly taken on these taxpayer-funded trips, from his daughters to various business associates, including individuals named David and Jonathan Rowland. The sexual misconduct was conducted with remarkable brazenness, according to Lownie's sources. His private secretary would allegedly approach diplomats during official trips and indicate that Andrew preferred a certain type of companion. Diplomats would respond by saying they were diplomats, not something far more inappropriate. But there were numerous instances of women being brought to him anyway. The famous episode Lownie mentions is the Thailand trip, but he indicates there were certainly many others that haven't yet become public. During one 4-day trip to Thailand that was funded by British taxpayers, Andrew went through 40 different women. Then he allegedly swapped them with an Arab prince afterward. He also managed to bring his Thai girlfriend Sonia Cooling, who was a well-known actress there, on these official government trips. For example, when he traveled to Chiang Mai, she accompanied him in an official capacity. Andrew was extraordinarily open about all of this behavior. Everyone in diplomatic circles knew about it, yet nothing was ever said officially. Lownie expresses amazement that these secrets remained buried as long as they did. Many people are now coming forward telling stories they kept quiet for years. Senior naval officers spoke to Lownie specifically because they were exasperated by the way Andrew had been protected and felt this story absolutely needed to come out. Lownie lectures regularly at literary festivals around Britain, and he encounters what he describes as Middle Britain, retired military officers, and similar demographics. They're genuinely appalled by Andrew's behavior. Lownie emphasizes he speaks as a monarchist who wants the monarchy to survive, but not if it operates with this level of corruption. Every time Andrew got caught up in another Epstein-related scandal, Queen Elizabeth would give him honors. She made him a Knight of the Garter. She appointed him as an honorary Vice Admiral. She insisted he sit beside her in the car traveling to Balmoral. Everyone interpreted these visible signs of support as evidence that maybe Andrew was innocent. Maybe there was no truth to the allegations against him. But Lownie went into this research with a completely open mind. He's a trained historian with academic credentials. It became crystal clear through his investigation that Virginia Giuffre was telling the truth. Everything she stated has been corroborated by independent evidence. Everything that Andrew and Sarah Ferguson have said publicly are demonstrable falsehoods. That conclusion has now been proven by subsequently leaked emails and other documentation. Andrew apparently liked a specific physical type. He essentially asked his hosts during official trips to act as procurers for him. He enjoyed the lavish lifestyle that came with his position. That pattern tied in perfectly with his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, who was then essentially distributing them to other wealthy and powerful men. Lownie indicates this included a well-known resident of Florida, but doesn't provide additional identifying details. When asked how Andrew first came into contact with Virginia Giuffre, Lownie provides a chilling answer. He believes Andrew essentially ordered her from a catalog, the way someone might order pizza delivery. There was apparently a book circulating among wealthy and powerful men who were being provided with young women through this network. Lownie indicates this information has emerged from research conducted by Laura Burns, a producer for the BBC programme Panorama, but also from other sources he's heard from independently. They essentially had an order form system. This makes sense logically, because otherwise why would Virginia Giuffre be brought specifically to London just on the chance that Andrew might be interested? He selected her. She fit the profile he preferred regarding appearance and age. Lownie believes this is where allegations of trafficking have genuine validity. The now infamous photograph of Virginia with Andrew, Epstein, and Ghislaine Maxwell has been the subject of Andrew's denials. Andrew claims it's manipulated and that he never met the woman. But Lownie has assembled overwhelming evidence that the photograph is absolutely authentic. There's photographic evidence of Virginia being seen with Andrew from multiple witnesses, including on Epstein's private island. The technology to convincingly manipulate photographs like that simply didn't exist at the time the photo was taken. The photo was physically handed over, brought in a bookcase, and shown to Sharon Churcher, the journalist who broke the story. Lownie actually knows Sandra White personally, who was the handler assigned to take care of Giuffre. because she had a young family and needed support during interviews. Sandra witnessed the photograph being handed over. It's been authenticated by numerous independent forensic experts. Andrew didn't challenge the photograph at the time the story first broke because he initially tried to discredit Giuffre through other means. It was only later that he attempted the manipulation claim. The photograph has a date stamp. Everything about it aligns perfectly with Virginia's account. Numerous people saw that photograph at the time it was taken, including her boyfriend Tony Figueroa, her best friend Caroline Andriano, her father Sky Roberts, as well as Sandra White, Sharon Churcher, and photographer Michael Thomas. There's absolutely no doubt among experts that the photograph is completely authentic. If Andrew was conducting himself this way during essentially state-sponsored trips around the world, foreign intelligence services must have accumulated substantial compromising material about him. Lownie confirms this is absolutely the case. Intelligence services regularly conduct what are called honey trap operations. Andrew was a classic target who walked straight into these situations everywhere he traveled. Wherever he went, women were provided. They might be presented as translators, secretaries, or women he met at nightclubs. Many nightclubs in places like Kazakhstan basically operated as establishments where these arrangements were facilitated. There's compromising material on Andrew held by Russian intelligence services. Tim Riley, who's a Cambridge academic, told Lownie about this. How was Andrew able to use his position for personal profit so many times without being stopped? Lownie's answer is simple: because he was enabled and protected by institutions. Diplomats set up these meetings with questionable individuals. His staff organized these arrangements. These activities could all have been shut down at any point. Andrew couldn't personally run all these operations. He wasn't booking the private jets that transported him or the helicopters. Just recently at the Duchess of Kent's funeral, Andrew had a police escort from Windsor, despite not being a working royal anymore. Someone in the system arranged that. He can't just personally call and have it done. Countless people facilitated this behavior and knew about it. Lownie has stories of British diplomats who actually provided some of the inappropriate companions. Regarding the Thailand trip and the 40 women during 4 days, Lownie indicates Andrew has an addiction. There's a story Tina Brown relates about Andrew staying at the home of Walter Annenberg, who was a former ambassador in London, where he spent the entire time consuming inappropriate material. Lownie received information just recently about Andrew taking the entire top floor of a hotel in Hong Kong during a business trip where he had numerous Asian women brought in. He had so many women coming to Buckingham Palace, sometimes 2 in a single night, and he refused to let security personnel even know their names, which obviously created serious security concerns. Paul Page, who was a policeman at the gate, has gone public about this. But pressure was consistently applied to people who complained. If protection officers raised concerns, they were told they had a choice: keep the cushy job with double the pay, or go back to regular patrol duties in difficult areas like Brixton. Ambassadors who complained suddenly found their next posting was to undesirable locations like Lagos. It was a systematic mixture of patronage and pressure. When ABC television tried to run a story on Virginia Giuffre and Andrew years before the scandal finally broke publicly, the palace threatened them. They said if ABC ran that story, they would never again receive access to the Prince and Princess of Wales. ABC, to their shame according to Lownie, backed down. The News of the World had the story in 2009, 2 full years before it broke publicly, and they held it back. So it's welcome that the palace is finally taking this seriously and realizing this represents abuse of privilege with real victims who deserve justice. But it's taken them an extraordinarily long time to reach that position. Once again, we see a pattern of powerful, wealthy individuals being protected at every step, while people who speak out against injustice face threats of job loss or other punishment. Simon Wilson, who was deputy ambassador in Bahrain, spoke out publicly and found that his security clearance was mysteriously lost. He essentially lost the position he held at the time because of that. That's it for today, folks. See you in the next video.